भागे।
Is my screen visible?
Yeah, it's visible. हेलो हेलो, मेरी आवाज आ रही है किसी को? मतलब फिर कोई तो बोल लो, किसी को आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ चालू आ रही है।
अच्छा ठीक है, फिर शुरू कर दो सर।
Yeah, sure, sure. Is my whole screen visible right now? Full screen mode?
हाँ, it's visible.
Yeah,
Full
sure.
screen.
Yeah, so today we'll discuss about developing frameworks for research papers. So essentially, the idea of this talk is just to give an overview on how we can give a good structure to a research paper. And this is based on my experience and not on any like some literature or reading something. This is based on my experience of publishing four papers. So I'll share that during the course of the PPT. And we can keep question answers for the end mostly, but if we have something in middle which is important, we can do that as well during the course of the presentation. Yeah, so structuring a research paper. So first of all, we start with the introduction section. So what I would suggest is you can give a brief introduction to a bigger issue or some actionable items. For example, there is a very big problem, so you can't tackle the whole problem in one research paper, right? So you have to give introduction to that bigger problem, and then you can give a smaller thing which we are targeting in this particular paper. So be generic at first, give an introduction to a bigger issue, and then the specific problem that you are targeting. You are narrowing down that problem that you want to address in this particular paper, right? And then you have to explain its importance. Why is this important? Is this important from the methodological point of view, from some application point of view, and how it would impact people, right? Because your aim is to design systems that help have good public policies, right? So this is how you would start with the introduction to the problem, and then you will give the brief details of the solution that you are presenting. Just give a one-liner on the methodology. For example, if you are using regression or something, and you are applying to some data, so just you can give one or two bullet points or not much details, but just an overview and a gist of the methodology. And other thing which I noticed based on my experience is if you are publishing some work which is in the Indian context of some particular problem, then the issue arises is if you are publishing it in an international journal, they question what is the international readership for this particular thing. And so that is why you need to give some issue which is at the international level and how this is tackled in India. And you have to say that the solution methodology or the framework that you are presenting is not very specific for that particular problem, and you can also use with other problems. Use this framework when you are targeting other problems which are of similar nature. Then, at the last of this section, at the end of this section, you can give a summary of the bullet points of the objectives. So, for example, you aim to have three objectives in a particular paper. Just say overall we want to do this XYZ thing, and the specific objectives that we aim to achieve are given as follows. And then after that, you can give the organization of the paper. And while you are giving the summary of the objective, don't use the methodology that you are using. Just use uh, the objectives are this to provide a this to give an insights into this, something like that. So your objective should be how you what problem you are solving and what you aim to achieve, rather than how you aim to achieve through a specific methodology. So this is about the introduction section. Then in the literature review section, you just have to give the brief literature review on the existing issue. So, for example, if you are targeting some transportation problem, and I hope many of you have read Hemant's papers, right? So, if you are targeting something related to public transportation, you can give an issue, like what is a particular issue, and give a brief literature review on how it is being tackled, and in different countries and in different locations, and how this problem specific to India is different. That will be a novelty part. So from literature, you need to bring out this part. So you have to give some other studies on different countries that explain how this solution won't work in India. So that is the novelty part that you can get in your applied papers. And then you have to find review papers published in good journals and extract some lines that justifies your current work. Right. So first, for example, if some review paper says that this kind of work has been done in developed countries but not in the developing world, so that tagline you can use from this paper, and then based on that you can say that this says this thing, and we are bridging this literature gap through this small bit of work that we are doing. And in the literature review section, you need to include papers from the journal where you intend to submit. So, for example, if your work is rejected from one journal and you are targeting some other journal, just add some papers from that journal, like 3 or 4 papers from that journal. And this section needs to end with the research gaps from the literature, and just give a generic framework like how these research gaps can be bridged. I will give specific examples uh, from 2 of my papers right now. Are the papers visible right now on the screen?
No, Abhishek, not right now.
Now,
It's
is it
visible.
visible now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is one of my recent papers. So in the introduction section, we just gave, so for example, we started with the Indian education system, the scale of it. Then we said what is the requirements and what is the current state. And then we came out how is this research relevant to practitioners and policymakers, right? This can enable practitioners to identify broad areas where interventions are needed. You can have this as a starting point for more focused research. Policymakers can make some interventions like that. So you need to give the utilities of your work in the introduction section. Then a brief on how your research is conducted, that we conducted it at the school level in this zone. It is not possible to focus on all schools and all aspects, so that's why our problem is important. Then a brief bullet points of how we divide the studies in 2 parts. So the first part compares this, second part employs this. So this is the overall gist. So don't go into the details of the methodology. Like I've just written, employs a multiple regression model at the school level. So you don't need to give like this thing, dependent variables or independent variables. Just say this particular methodology we are adopting and we are using some data. So you can even fine tune, like I have written in 5-6 lines. You can even write it smaller. The smaller the better, and you have to make it crisp. So this is, then you can say what variables you have used in general. The key variables, not, I have used around 35 variables, but I have just written the key ones, like 5-6 variables key you can write. Then objective of the study is to determine the benchmark and severely lagging schools and their relationship with geographical location, and to identify the determinants of school performance and relevant interventions. So these objectives do not contain any methodology. Just say I want to identify these determinants and I want to determine the benchmark and lagging schools, and then organization of the paper. In for literature review, I'll show the another paper. This is in this one. Yeah. So first thing is, in this paper, I am targeting sustainable school bus transportation, right? So our data set is one school, but we have a large sample size of about 700 respondents. So but for an international reader, a study on a school in Delhi will not be relevant unless we link it to a bigger issue. So, for example, Sustainable Development Goals are a set of 17 interlinked goals, and then I just gave that what they aim for, and they have to improve standard of living through better education, environmental consciousness. So, how you can link your work is, my work is in school education, so education needs accessibility, and accessibility may have environmental issues if people use public transport, private vehicles instead of public transportation system. And so environmental consciousness is an important thing, and sustainability is important, sustainable cities and communities, which is a part of urban planning. So you can link your problem into various SDGs, for example here, and then the LDG says there is a need of action plan for these goals at the local or the global level. So you can just say I am targeting a problem which is local, but obviously I'm developing an action plan that can be replicable to other places as well. And then you can say my work is at the intersection of these LDGs, so it would look like it is something broad. So that you can include, and then again this literature review section ends with the key aims or the objective of the study, uh, thing, and the organization of the paper. So yeah, and in the literature review section, so I recently adopted this practice of dividing this into 3 or 4 parts. So each part can give, so for example, in one you can give school transportation in India in this case. So you can say what are the important aspects of school transportation specific to India, and what are the, then I wrote about sustainable transportation. So I found a good research paper on this. So that says it has 9 interlinked areas. So using these 9 interlinked areas, I developed my whole framework that I have used. Then factors affecting the school trips, you can include such things as well for this. And this ends like observation, the end should be observations from literature and the research gap. So you can say that findings from literature suggest that sustainable transportation planning, this requires like involvement of stakeholders, measurement of performance. This came from my literature review in school transportation, what factors inhibit, and the study has so this is an important line which I got from this paper, this one. So the study of school trips has received limited attention in the developing countries despite its environmental impact and scope of improvement. So what it says is, you have seen a recent research paper, you have like found out a research gap based on that paper, and you are targeting that gap in this, in your study. So citing 1 or 2 recent articles in this section can be helpful.
अभिषेक सर, जस्ट अ थिंग इन दिस लिटरेचर सर्वे, तो ये जो आपने सब सेक्शंस बनाई हैं, वोंट वी हैव टू कनेक्ट देम आल्सो लाइक अ स्टोरी? well I got
Yeah, exactly. See, you first of all, na, see, I will tell you one good way. What you can do is don't make too many sections, like maximum 3 or 4 sections. because it is a
Okay.
research paper, right? So first of all, you can give the issues. For example, school transportation in India. This
Mhm.
you can give some issues. What is the issue? For example, personal vehicles add to congestion. Some issues you can give. Then you can say like what particular solution can be adopted. So sustainable transportation and incorporating all these 9 aspects that are given, this can lead to a better solution. So first you can give the literature review on what exactly the issue is, and then secondly how you can tackle, and what are, and in this like you can uh, uh, the 9 factors say that you can use public transit for schools, for example. So then you need to say, yeah, school, these factors affect school transportation. So I want my people, my kids to go by school buses, but what is actually affecting them? So first is your cause, the issue, then how you can tackle those issues, and what can be the possible barriers while targeting those issues. So this way you can structure.
ठीक है सर, थैंक यू।
Hmm. Yeah. So now my PPT is visible. Yeah.
It's
So
visible.
this, yeah. So this is fine. So now the literature review section or the start of the methodology section, you can start with a framework that is generic and can be applied to other locations or similar problems. And in the framework, you should include like methodology and the key outcomes, so that if a person is just sees your, the reviewer rather just sees your framework, this diagram, he or she knows what exactly is your outcome. For example, I'll show you one example. uh, I showed this one. Yeah. So in this paper, I developed 2 frameworks. So one is I uh, should I zoom in more, or is it clear?
You can zoom it a little.
Fine. Hmm. Yeah. So in this book, we developed 2 frameworks. One is the prioritizing of factors, and another is like analyzing commuters' perception. Okay. So in the prioritization framework, first the overall gist was to have an experts survey to understand what factors actually affect school bus usage. Okay, so first is you have to through the literature review, you have to finalize the factors. Then you have to classify into different categories. This is methodology specific, and then you have to prioritize. So in just 2 or 3 lines, you can say like identification of factors through literature survey, discussions with stakeholders, finalization of factors uh, based on this survey, and then for classification you have the survey of the expert, then output is verification of factor characterization, the methodology that you use. Similarly, for prioritization, like you are surveying the experts on a fuzzy scale and then ranking these factors, and then method which you are using. For the commuter analysis framework, we surveyed 2 kind of people. So first is survey of bus users and another is non-bus users. Okay, so the input is the survey in both the cases. Output is current service rating and motivation for bus users. So we aim so our aim was to identify the current service rating that can help improve bus services, and to understand the reasons what motivates them to use school buses. So and then you can give the methods that you have used, for example survey, descriptive analysis, xyz, जो भी होगा. Okay, and then for the non-bus users, what my analysis was inhibitors of bus usage and how likely are they to shift to buses based on certain interventions. Okay, so this is built on descriptive analysis, logical regression, etc. So these are 2 frameworks which I have just given with the dotted lines, and then those both the frameworks are integrated to prioritize these factors and taking the customer perceptions together, and then it leads to sustainable school bus transportation policy. So the thing about this framework is, if a reviewer reads this, that person is clear and on how your paper flow is, and what are the overall methodologies and what problem you are trying to identify and solve. And another thing is, for example, if some other school wants to use this, they just need this diagram. Like they need someone to uh, develop a survey of experts. They need someone to develop a survey for bus users, non-bus users, and they know what are the methods they can use. So this is what I was referring to as the generic framework. So this is fine. And another example I'll share from this paper. Yeah, figure 2, methodology for school performance analysis. So in this, what we did was we took school data, attendance data, and results data from different sources. We merged them, and then we performed some cleaning and analysis of this data to understand the factors that affect school performance. That is the what of school performance, like playgrounds, different facilities, attendance, and what all affect school performance. And from another part, we determined which schools uh, are uh, are the major points where we can apply these interventions so that we target the severely lagging schools. So we use box plots, geotagging, chi-square test to determine these schools. So this is where to take action and what action to take. And combined, we can give some policy implications and some measures to improve school performance. So another way to represent is this one. So here you include the methodology and what data you have used and how at a broad level you have done your analysis and what are the data sources that you have integrated. So in the methodology section, you can present the methodology and the models developed and don't present equations for widely used methodologies. For example, I don't think there is a need to present an equation uh, of, that gives the methodology for logistic regression because it is widely used. If you want, you can still keep it in the appendix, but it is better to avoid because no one is going to read that. It is just adding the word count in your paper. Right. And for or your own formulations, so we can present the set parameter and the decision variable in a tabular format, which I can show from this paper. There is one unpublished paper. So for example, you can give it in this format. What are the indices that you have used? What are the sets, then parameters that you have used in the tabular format so that they look good while reading and are clear. Decision variables like that you can represent. And another thing is, for example, uh, avoid words like ith, jth, something like that. So I could have written it another way if ith bus of depot of hth depot, but that doesn't look good. So if bus I of depot h, something like that. So avoids superscripts in this. Right. And always use equation editor for all mathematical symbols, even within the text. If you are saying, for example, x1 within the text, just write it in the mathematical mode using the equation editor. And this is one YouTube video which is very good to good guide to write equations without formatting issues. So your equations won't like in Word. It often happens that some go right aligned, some left aligned. So you can watch this video. I'll share this. This is very good. This is a very good video that you can incorporate. Then this is the results and discussion section. So I've highlighted this in yellow. So any idea why this thing?
most important part.
No. Some other thing.
There is no results. It is just result.
Error S result and discussion.
Exactly. See, the thing is, we from one paper we have many results, right? So your most people do this mistake. They say result and discussions, which is not the thing. You have to write results because you are presenting suppose 10 results and discussion. So this whole thing, results and discussion, this is the actual title, which we often make mistake. So just present it, and you can have two separate sections as well. You can have in one section also. So you have to present the key results in tables and figures and avoid redundancy. For example, if a table has 10 rows, there is no point in discussing all the 10 rows in the text because that would be redundant, and no one is going to read that. And similarly for figures, if you are presenting some graph, you can highlight the edge cases or the extreme values rather than giving interpretation of each and every bar chart or something. Just discuss things which are relevant and which add value. Okay, for table captions, it has to be above the tables, and figure captions is below the tables, like most of you might be knowing. Then for table formatting, avoid vertical borders, only keep heading and the last line in horizontal borders. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. See this. So heading is having a border at the top and the bottom, while the last line has the border at the bottom. So avoid vertical lines and avoid lines after like every row, unless there is something quite which is not quite interlinked. Then you can have, for example, in this case, I had this line somewhere in middle because decision variables and parameters are different. So that is why I had. But if it is not needed, just avoid that and cross-reference the tables and figures in text. Do people know cross-referencing? Hello? Hello?
Sir, stating in the text that why that table is or figure is there.
Yeah. So for example, cross-referencing is when you click, you say in your text, if you say table 3.1 gives this. So when you click on table 3.1, it should redirect you to table 3.1. So this is a feature which you can use in Word using this. This thing comes. Go to references. Then go to this insert caption. Go to insert caption. You can insert a caption for any table or figure using this, or you can right click on the figure or table and insert caption. Then you have to go to this thing, insert cross reference. Then you have to link that particular section or table or equation within the text using this. Right. So I'll just give you an example of this as well. And you should always use this when you're formatting a paper in Word. Just use automatic this table and figure numbering. It is very important because anytime everything, if something changed, everywhere it is not impacted. So for example, if I click on this, I have cross-referenced it. control plus click, and I'll reach this table. Okay, this is my table. So this is cross-referencing that you should always use. The advantage of this is, for example, if you insert some table before table 5.3, so all the numberings after 5.3 would change, but you just need to click here or just select the whole paragraph in one go and just say update field. So your subsequent numbers would automatically change. So this is what cross-referencing means, and you have to end this section with the discussion around the findings. And then the last section can be policy implication section, and where you have to provide the implication of the model result, discuss. Yeah, so I'll just show this thing. So for example, in this paper, it was relatively large. So this is a policy implication or policy discussion. So you can say something, it is a strategic decision, something, and then uh, you can have it in different sections as well, because this was suggested to me by one of the reviewers. That's why I kept it in different sections, but you can keep it in one section as well. Different discussion around different objectives, around some key parameters. You can how your parameters are important and how they like impact your results and the actual policy if they are implemented. And then the end should be like you are discussing this thing. So for example, in this case, relevance for my section ended with relevance for National Education Policy 2020, because this was a bigger issue in this case, and we identified one problem through this, and then like linking it, and now at the end we stated it is NEP states that this, and we have used such and such considerations, that's which we have explained in this chapter. And last is your conclusion section. So don't write very high like very large number of pages in conclusion. Just like half or one page of conclusion is sufficient if you have written the policy implication sections well. So this is, and in conclusion section you can just say some future directions of research. So summary or conclusion, you can name it any way you like. So you have to provide a summary of the problem solved, discuss about the methodology that I adopted this methodology, and these were the key findings. Then you have to be concise when you state the limitations, because no research is complete without limitations, because there is always a scope of improvement, and the models do not take all models do not take all assumptions, right? There are some assumptions that would fail in your models, and you can extend your work. So you have to give a broad sense of future directions that can be adopted for this particular problem or for the larger issue, something like that you can give. So now once the paper is written, you have to search for a journal, right? So first is you can use the references that you have used in your paper. So just see those references and check the journals whether they are relevant for you or not, because sometimes it happens that you have uh, you have used some references. You think that the journal is a fit, but somehow it doesn't fit, because your paper is not structured according to that journal, or they want more of methodology, they want more of policy, something like that for different issues. So one is you can use your references, and another is you can search using a publisher's journal finder service. For example, Elsevier, Springer have their services, and you have to insert your title, abstract, and the keywords. And keywords are a very important thing, because if someone searches on this thing, Scopus, using keywords, so you have to be quite crisp with your keywords. So for example, if you're targeting some problem in India, include India as your keyword. Include, in my case, in the transportation problem, you can include sustainable transportation. You can include survey analysis. Use broad sense of words, but uh, they should be like generic word. It should not be use a very specific word which no one would search. Hence, your visibility would be low on Scopus. So use those keywords that are widely used. Don't, for example, you say that I'll use some ABC keyword because it looks good, but no one would be able to search as it is quite unique. So use those generic sort of keywords which help people to reach your work. And there are some objective indicators of journal metrics. One is the ABDC ranking. So this is A star, A, B, and C. So you should target A star and A. Mostly the things we do come into journals of category of A. A star are very limited journals, and if you think you can target that, that is really good. But normally A is a good indicator for the models that we build and for the analysis we do. A and this is not difficult to achieve, but you have to write it according to the journal standard. Just for example, some journals have word limits, so you have to adhere to that word limit. And I would suggest that initially when you write without any journal in mind, just don't write a paper more than 8,000 words, because some journals have a cutoff of 7,000, some have 8, some have 9, some have 10, something like that. So if you write a 12,000 word paper, you can't reduce 4,000 words. But if you write around 7 to 8,000, you can easily chop off like 1,000 words that you can do, or you can add some words if word limit is more. Adding is easy and subtracting is quite difficult. Another indicator is SCI or SSCI. This is Science Citation Index and Social Science Citation Index, and one is Science Citation Index Expanded. So this is same as SCI. So they are quartile ranges. So Q1 and Q2 are generally good journals, so you should target that. And sometimes it may happen a journal is having ABDC ranking as C and Q1, Q2, this SCI ranking as Q1. So you can target. So there would be many journals which might be C but Q1, might be A but Q3. That might also happen. So if any of these two indicators are matching, you can use that. And H index is there, and hopefully you know what is H index, right? Do you people know what is H index? Hello.
Yes, sir. If an author has H number of papers and it has been cited H times, then that's the H index.
So suppose if a person has 100 papers and H index is 29, so it means that 29 of his papers have been cited 29 times. And another is I-10 index, which is generally not an indicator for journals, but that is for individuals like us. So it says how many of your papers have been cited more than 10 times. Then you have this impact factor, and preferably for our work, we can think of publishing in those journals that have impact factor more than one. And then you can see the years of existence of a journal and the turnaround time. So if a journal is old, however its ranking is not very good, you can go for that journal. But don't like publish in those journals which are like 1 year or 2 years old, because they might not be ABDC ranked or might not be SCI ranked and would be having this lower H index and impact factor. So target high impact factor journals initially, and then go to low ones in case you're not able to publish in those. Then turnaround time is another criteria. That is the time from which you submit your paper and you receive the final acceptance or final decision. So if it is a desk reject, it is normally like a week or so. And if it is first, it goes into first round of review, it is about 3 to 4 months. And then second round depends on how quickly you interact with your. So that's about it. We can have some questions if you have.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Please explain again on the avoiding redundancy, and maybe you have an example of it.
Avoiding is this one, right? No. Which slide?
Yes,
This one, right?
the second point.
Okay. So for example, if you see table 6, so this is my table 6. So I have 3 rows in this table, right? Where we have the bus stop distance less than 250, between 250 and 500, and then parents occupation is equal to service. Okay, so I need not explain all the 3 results in the text. So for example, what I did was I say that this presents a binary logistic regression to explore the variation of responses for walking to bus stop. Compared to this, it shows that exponential beta values decrease sharply from this to this as the bus stop distance increases. So this is, I explained only one thing. I explained only this part. For these 2 results, that did this decreases quite significantly. I didn't explain this parent occupation because this is quite clear. If it is service, then exponential beta value is this. So there is not any significant thing that I'm bringing out from this. So avoid redundancy, only highlight the key results, because there is a sharp dip. If there is a sharp dip or sharp increase, that you can highlight. So that is what I mean by redundancy. So for example, in this figure, I say different reasons for using the buses. This is for the bus users. Okay. So in this figure 6, I will never explain all the things. So I just say figure shows this. 85% cite this reason, 76, 70, and 68 cite these reasons, and 40% cite these reasons. So out of these 10 graphs, I just gave a brief gist of 4 or 5 important points from this figure. There's no need to just say again that nearness to bus stop, this percent people say yes or something for all the results. So that is what I'm trying to say. And another is just like in table 4, I gave this regression, sorry, see this. Table 7 gives the reasons for non-bus usage. This I have given from figure. Next we determine this thing. So I just gave 2-3 important things that can be interpreted from this figure. Okay, and another thing is table 5. So, so we use this we have explained in table 5. Next we interpret one result from table 5, because table 5 is quite big. I can't explain each and every result, right? There are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, around 10, 12 rows. So I just explained one figure, and other results can be interpreted in the similar manner that we can write.
If we have two same kind of table, for example, in your paper, table 4 and table 6, I think. So can we explain it in the same way for each table? Is that considered as redundancy also?
No. So what I feel is, what I think redundancy is, if you are explaining all the rows of one table. So if there are 2 similar tables, and I think if they explain exactly the same thing, then better to avoid. Just highlight the key results.
Okay.
Because in some cases, your categories may be different. For example, in multiple logistic regression or binary logistic regression, categories may be different. So that you can explain. But if it is exactly the same, then you can just write table 7 can be interpreted in the same manner, something like that. That you can write.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay.
अभिषेक सर अतुल है ये
Yeah,
जो आपने एबीटीसी और वो बताया था Q1 Q2 रैंकिंग वाला तो उसमें कोई ज्यादा प्रेफरेबल है क्या उन दोनों में
See, the thing is, if you are applying in management schools, they mostly see this ABDC ranking. The engineering colleges see SCI rankings. But what happens is the management schools also, if it is not an ABDC, they see Q1, Q2 rankings. So I would suggest in our work, we should think of both the rankings, but give more preference to Q1, Q2. And generally, all the journals which are A or A star are Q1 and Q2. So just check Q1 and Q2 and then check for ABDC.
Thank you.
Because some journals might be ranked in ABDC, but they are not ranked in SCI databases.
Okay.
Because if you see only, because engineering colleges would never like see this Q1 this ABDC ranking. So better to first think of Q1 Q2 because that is I think better, that is quartile based, so that is relatively better if you are thinking from the management and engineering both the perspectives. But only for management schools A star and A are sufficient, but like ABDC ranking is sufficient. Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, who is this?
Rajat here.
Yeah, hi.
Sir, why did you choose best first method in your one of paper? Why not other MCDM? Is there any specific reason for choosing best first method?
See, first is this is a very good question. So I think so my choice of this method was that because it is a very new method. So if it is a new method and plus it requires less number of comparisons. So do you have idea of MCDM techniques?
Yes, sir.
Right. So in MCDM techniques, subjectivity is always there, and you have to like have large amount of survey data because AHP method you have to compare. Suppose if you have 10 factors, right? So you have to have a matrix of 10 by 10, right? But here in this, you are just making comparison with the best and the worst. So you just have 20 comparisons in that case. So if you are asking to any of these survey respondents, you are just asking 20 questions instead of asking 100 questions. So that is one way. And another is the consistency ratio is better for a BWM method. So that is my main reason. And mostly if you have to stay updated with the recent developments while choosing a methodology, because if you choose AHP, you might have issues with publishing as well. So target the newer methods and methodologies and which are widely used in the last you can say 4-5 years or 6 years. Use those methodologies.
Okay.
And
Thank
maybe
you,
as a benchmark, you can use other methodologies and you can compare your result with the new methodologies as well. You can say that my results are better with the old methodology. So this methodology might not be good for this particular problem, which I am targeting based on such and such conditions. That can be a good comparison with the existing and like the old and the new methodologies that you can give.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Good morning. Sarthak this side.
Yeah. Hi, sir.
Yeah. Sir, एक नई चीज चल रही है लेटेक. So, sir, paper written in LaTeX has an edge over the paper written in Excel.
Excel or Word?
Word, yes, a word.
See, in Nige near LaTeX. LaTeX is quite old. Fine. So the thing is, uh, the formatting is slightly easier in LaTeX because some of the features are quite good. But if if you are new in LaTeX, now you would have to devote some amount of time. But once you are comfortable with LaTeX, I suggest you go for LaTeX.
Acceptance
Because
in
initially,
okay, go on.
No. See, for publishing paper, it doesn't matter in any of the text editor which you are writing, because anyways you are submitting a PDF version to the journal, right? So that doesn't matter, and no one sees that, because ultimately you have to put it in the journal's template when it is accepted. So no paper has an edge with respect to the text editor in which it is written. You can write it in any of this thing, any of the softwares, and but ensure the formatting is consistent. That is important.
Okay.
And no paper gets rejected because of formatting issues, unless it is quite weird, but generally it doesn't happen.
Okay, sir.
Anything else? Yeah, anything else? Hello?
Are there some charges in submitting paper to some journals?
Yeah, so see, there are two, I think I should have included this aspect in the PPT as well. So there are two kind of fees. One is the open access fees, one is the article processing charge. So do you people know the difference in that?
No.
Yeah, so see, some journals charge an article processing fees. So it means that when you submit your paper, you are submitting some X amount for consideration e- in the journal. So that is, if it even if it is just rejected, you have initially paid that amount, right? So that is the article processing charge. So many journals are free of cost for submission, and some have article processing charges. So this is the first thing. So generally in our field in management and this, more 90% of the journals are do not charge any open access fees, do not charge any article processing charge. So submission is mostly free, except in the cases when they specifically write. Because in some journals they are only open access journals, so that means uh, uh, they can be accessed from anywhere. For example, if IIT does not have even if IIT does not have access to these journals, we can still access them because the authors are paying for the open access fees. So some journals they say that if your article is accepted, then it will be published open access, but you have to incur that cost. So in that case, you will not have to pay the article processing charge, but you have to pay the open access charge if it is accepted. Article processing charge is paid at the time of submission, and open access charge depends on uh, if you are willing to publish it open access. So there are two models of publishing. One is the subscription based model. One is the open access model. So you have the choice in most of the journals, but some journals only have this open access thing. So in that you have to pay if your article is accepted. But if you are publishing it in a hybrid journal, which is subscription and open access both, then you can say I will publish my article free of cost and on the basis of subscription. Like IIT takes some subscriptions, right? So my article would only be visible to those institutions who have taken my subscription. So these are two kind of models that are used. Fine.
सर वन मोर थिंग
Hmm.
सर वो बता दीजिए दोबारा जो आपने बताया था कि अगर आपका काम इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में है और आप इंटरनेशनल जर्नल में पब्लिश कर रहे हैं तो वो जो ब्रिज करने को बोला था वो कैसे मतलब
हाँ तो इसमें ना यार यार ये तो आप कैन यू आस्क इन इंग्लिश बिकॉज आदि माइट नॉट बी नोइंग हिंदी.
Okay, so could you go back to your first slide and explain it again, how to bridge that gap if you're working in Indian context and you want to put in it in an international journal? So how to bridge that gap if someone asks, if a editor asks, what is
Yeah,
your
sure.
novelty of that work?
Yeah, sure. See, first of all, if your work is Indian, it's specific to India or the Indian context, so you can choose a journal. There are a variety of journals that say we uh, we publish paper based on regional things. For example, there's a paper called a journal called Regional Science Policy and Practice. So they publish papers uh, which are specific to different geographical locations to highlight their peculiarities. So in such journal, you just say my problem is different in the sense because in India this XYZ thing happens. In some other developed context, some other ABC things happen. Right. So that is why our paper is different, and we are developing it on the Indian context purely. That you can say, but you have to still highlight the fact that how it is important to the uh, context, to the international readership as well. Because a person sitting in the US won't read your research paper unless it is relevant to that person, right? So that is why the formation of a generic framework is important. Because if you want to use your study, that person has the framework that can be replicated. So give your results with respect to India, but highlight a broader issue which is abroad that can attract international readership. So that should be a rule.
So, like how? Sir, you presented some of example from your own research article. So if you had worked in a similar area, can you just show
No,
us?
I explained that right now, that how I linked with national education policy, how I linked with sustainable development goals. Did you listen to
No,
the
I did,
presentation
I
that?
did. So it comes in the last section.
No, no. So see, you can include it in the introduction section. You, I see this. No,
You showed, but it was in the last section, na? So
no,
that
no, 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 no. It was in one of the papers. It was at the starting when I introduced to a bigger actionable item, which was the sustainable development goal. So I started my introduction with that goal. So, and then I said that there are 17 goals which aim for such things. And then the key aims of these goals are this. And then within the context of education and other LTGs, we can link these 3-4 LTGs to tackle this particular problem, which we are targeting in this paper. So that was at the starting. So in this paper. See, this development goals, then their main aim, and then I say that one of the key SDGs, this relates to this for this purpose. Then transportation is system have a key aspect of urban planning due to their impact on climate and health of the population residing in cities. So for this purpose, SDGs are set up, and in our study, we present an action plan at the local level because it says LDGs must have some action plan at local at the or the global level. So I say that our study presents an action plan at the local level at the intersection of these 4 LDGs. The overall aim is to provide this. So this linking of LDGs can be used in other development contexts as well. So that is how you can make your work generic. And in the NEP, this thing. So I concluded it with the NEP because you have your work cannot be like something which is not related to some. If you are saying we'll help government with the policy, right? So you have to link your work with some of the government policy, right?
right,
This
sir.
is right. So that way you can give this thing. So in this paper, I have also given it in the literature review section as well, and then at the policy discussion section as well. So this is how you can make generic. And using such words can attract readership as well when they search on Scopus. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's all from my side.
Anything else from anyone?
No, sir.
Okay, then. Adya, can we conclude this then?
Yeah, we can just so I
So
don't
we
think
need to fill some Google form, right?
yes, we have to fill a Google form by Monday 2 p.m. I've already circulated a mail regarding that. Please mention in the details that are asked and mention your learnings in bullet form in that Google form. So I think we can, if we don't have any further query, we can end this session now.
Yeah, in case you need any help, everyone has my numbers. You can contact me anytime.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.